Good afternoon, crafters. It's Tangi from Papercrafting Australia. Thanks for joining me once again for another tutorial for the Crafternoon Box. This is our first Crafternoon tutorial for the November kit. So we are going to be making some alcohol ink backgrounds for our cards today, and we're going to be using alcohol ink markers, and we're going to be putting those onto acetate and vellum. So two very transparent mediums, and I'm going to be showing you some really handy tips on how to mount those onto your cards so that you can't see the adhesive underneath and your card won't fall apart. So we'll get on with having a look at who is here in the chat. So we're live on, it looks like Facebook and YouTube are playing nice for us for the moment. We'll see how things are going. We've got Sharon and Jenny and Tony watching on Facebook. I've got no comments in the YouTube yet, but that doesn't mean that you're not there. It is a little bit of a delayed reaction from me talking and you being able to hear that and then post back. But I can see we're working because Mum's put a little comment in there. Hi, Mum. Thank you, everybody, for popping in. So we're going to be doing Sundays for the month of November. So this is the first one. Next weekend, we'll do one on Sunday at 2 o'clock as well. And then the final Sunday of November, we're going to do two tutorials. So one at 2 o'clock and one at 4 o'clock. Just to give me a little bit of a break in between. But let's have a look at what is on the desk today. So these are all the bits and pieces that I am going to use, most of the bits anyway. Some of them I might use some of it I might not use all of it, but it gives me some colour options. I'm very thirsty today, so I don't know what's going on there. Hi Rhonda, thanks for joining us on Facebook, and hi Cindy. Cindy's here for her first Crafternoon as well, so thank you so much Cindy for joining us. Also got Leonie. Hello Leonie, thanks for popping by. So this is just an example of one of the cards that we're going to try and make today, and we've got this little green sort of in the background on the acetate. Bear with me because I've changed the orientation of my desks in my room today, and I now have lots of natural light coming through, but it also, and I've got my overhead light as well, but I still get that little ring up there, so I've got to hold everything, particularly when I've got shiny mediums like this, in the right area. So we're going to, this is just a square card today, so 135 by 135 millimeters are these ones. And I'm going to show you a few things on how to get this background effect, and then we probably won't do a wreath kind of shape like this, but I'll show you how I got that as a starting point, and then we'll build from there. I just think with this this writing over the top, it kind of just gets lost under there with that alcohol ink. So we'll have a play, and I'll show you those. I'm also going to show you how to do a card, and I've done this is on vellum, so this is the alcohol ink background here. And I'm going to show you how not to have this happen, where your card just falls apart because it doesn't attach properly, and it is a really odd substrate to work on vellum and then cover it with alcohol ink. So we're going to have a look at how to fix little things like that. And I'm going to pull this apart because I'm going to reuse this front bit. I really liked it. So let's get in and have a go. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to pop those aside and keep them handy because I do like to show you those. We've got our alcohol ink markers that came in the Crafternoon box. Now you can use alcohol ink markers. If you have alcohol inks, you can use those as well. Now we are going to need a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. So I've just decanted that. I tend to get this guy from Bunnings. It's a nice big ½ litre bottle. I don't know, from memory, I think it's like $16 or $20 or something for a bottle like that. And I just decant that out into a smaller plastic bottle with a narrower lid or nib on it, so that I can kind of direct where I want that alcohol ink to go. So I've got our alcohol ink markers. So these are the Couture Creations double-ended markers. So they've got the bullet end, so the stiff kind of pen, and we've got the brush end. And I love the brush end, particularly for doing this technique that we're going to be doing. So we've got red, yellow, and a light misty green. We were going to have one that was called green, but there were not enough in stock when we went to get all the kit contents. I've got some of the Kaisercraft metallic cardstock. So these are the A5 size. Just going to pop them out of the way. I've got a white and a cream square card. These are Couture Creations cards. So they make your 135 by 135 millimeter cards. So I'm going to do both today. We're going to try and whip up a couple of cards fairly quickly. Remind me that I've stored those on my right hand side. Also got, so this is the vellum, and everything's going to start getting very sticky because I've got acetate here as well, and it's going to get very staticky. So I've got the vellum, and we've also got acetate. So they are the surfaces that we're going to be playing around on. And keep those close by because we're going to cut those down in just a sec. And I've also got the red, green and gold glitter cardstock. The red one doesn't seem as glittery, but it actually is quite glittery when you see it in person. It's just a slightly less shimmery kind of look, but I still love it just the same. So we're going to play with those as well. Now, in your Crafternoon box for the month, you will find you'll have 2 of these. Now, these craft cards, the square ones, we're going to use later in the month, so don't use those ones today. But inside one of those, you will find all these little cutouts that we did for you. Now, these can be used as pieces to go onto your cards, or if you want to make more of them, just use them as a template. What I did was get a piece of cardstock, turn it over, trace that and then cut it out. I'm not going to cut that one out, obviously, because it's a lot of mucking around. But this one, certainly you can cut around the outside once you've traced it back to front on the back of a nice piece of card, because then you won't see your pencil lines. And then cut it out, and then just use a craft knife just to go in and cut all these little nooks that you'll have in there. So you can definitely get more out of these. You can also do the same with your Christmas trees. So just use it as a bit of a template and do some cutting. I cut this one. So this I might be able to see, there's a couple of little pencil lines there, but I cut this exactly out of just the gold metallic cardstock that we had. So I cut that out, and then I've just used, you might be able to see, I don't know if you can, I'll hold up a little bit. You might be able to see just around the edges, I've kind of gone along and just scratched it up a little bit. And I just used my little pokey tool. So just something pointy and sharp like this. And I just basically drew on that. And I would like to have a bit more of a play around doing some designs on the inside, but I'm going to use that on one of my cards today. So that is just showing you can use that as a template, draw on the back of your cardstock, cut it out, and then you've got more of them. It is a little bit of work, but I think it's worth it. And you can, you could definitely cut it out of your glitter cardstock or whatever you might have, any of your specialty papers. Have fun. That's the main thing. But you'll find those in your little brown square envelope. Rectangle, square, And I'm also going to use a craft mat today because playing around with these alcohol inks and the isopropyl, you're going to get it everywhere. So you're going to make a mess. So please protect your work surfaces before you go to town with playing with the alcohol inks. But let's get into it. So I am going to cut both my acetate and my vellum down to 135 by 135 millimeters. And then we'll have a bit of a play. Also got a few scraps lying around that I'm going to just show you just before we go too crazy on the what could be the finished pieces. Just some techniques and bits and pieces that are handy to know before you go getting too crazy. The great thing about alcohol ink, particularly on these surfaces, now they need to be somewhat smooth and non-porous so that the alcohol ink doesn't just absorb in. I'll see if I can grab just a little scrap of plain cardstock and I'll show you what happens if you try and use alcohol inks. They're great for, alcohol ink markers are fantastic for doing colouring in. You can absolutely colour in on plain cardstock. But the minute you add the isopropyl to try and blend it like, here's a bit of white card over here. Oh, that's a big stretch. I might get up actually. I mean, my craft room is not that wide, but when you try and stretch and there's something heavy on top of it, it makes it a little bit difficult. Yes, so colouring in. This is just plain white cardstock. Happy days, you've got some nice red, get a bit of nice green, a little bit of the yellow on here. You'll very soon get used to which, you'll start grabbing these pens and you'll notice that there is a grey mark around the end where the bullet end is. So you'll be able to tell that one just from looking at it that you want to, if you want to use the brush end, you want the white end so it doesn't have that little grey line there. Otherwise you'll end up doing this 16 times before you eventually get the right end. Just a little tip. Who's giving out tips in the, oh yeah, alcohol ink on metallic cardstock. I haven't gone there with this one, Mum, but you know, we might have a little play at the end and see how we go. So with, these are great, you know, they dry really quickly because the alcohol in it absorbs. Now you're going to want to hopefully have a room where you've got a little bit of fresh air that you can pump in, because this does get you a little bit high. This is 100% alcohol, so it's pretty full on. If I was to just run a little bit of this on, just these three little colours that we've got there. Now, normally with alcohol inks, you'll be able to move the colour around a bit, but because this is so porous, this surface just does not want to let go of that colour, and it'll absorb all of the moisture and it won't dry out for a while. Whereas with the alcohol inks, once you've used it on a smooth surface, you'll be able to, I mean, it'll bleed through, and that's just the alcohol sucking everything through. And yeah, it won't go anywhere, it won't do what you want, although you might be looking for some kind of effect like this where it just kind of spreads, but it doesn't, you're not going to get that kind of result, which is kind of the alcohol ink look that everyone's looking for, is that fine, wispy, you know, layered type of effect. This is going to spread, but it's not going to react in the same way. Now I'm also going to keep a little bit of paper towel handy. If you need to clean anything up off your desk, a little bit of the alcohol and a quick wipe with a paper towel and you're all cleaned up. So I'm going to get rid of that because we don't want to use any of those kind of papers, but we do want to use the vellum and the acetate. Okay, let's start with vellum. What did you say, Mum? Oh, wear a mask. We've all got plenty of those. Yes, we all have plenty of masks these days. I don't know whether they really stop the fumes from the alcohol, but you know, certainly they'll protect you in some ways. You won't get COVID from your craft supplies. There's always that. So I'm going to start with what do we want to do? What kind of colours? What kind of effect? I'll start with a red one. Now this always. It always looks a little bit murderous. Actually, no, I'm going to do green on this because I did do red on the vellum before. So I'm just going to grab my alcohol ink marker. You can do dots, you can do squiggles, whatever you like. You just want to put wherever you kind of want things to go. And this is me going for a let's colour the whole page kind of effect. If you want to keep it quite central, or you know, do something smooth with it, then by all means don't go as crazy as I have here. But then I'm going to grab, and I'll just do a couple at a time. Just take my isopropyl and just put a couple of dots just on here, and you'll start to see it spread, and you'll start to see it loosen up the colours in the inside the ink marker that you put down. So I've got one of these little blower tools. You can use this, you can use a hairdryer, you can use your heat tool, but you really want to be quite gentle with your heat tool. If you're going to use a heat tool, keep it as far away from the paper as you can. If you get it too close, because of the heat in it, it will melt. You can also use a hairdryer with the cool setting on, that will work as well. And if you're really not supplied up and you don't have any of those, you can use a straw, but just be mindful when you're blowing through a straw, you're going to get a bit of a head spin, A, because the alcohol smells, B, because you're blowing like you're blowing up balloons, you get that little bit of a head spin. But also there is a really gross thing with straws where when you're blowing through them, there's condensation from your breath that kind of accumulates in the straw, and eventually you could end up with saliva dropping down onto your page. Not really ideal, and not the kind of look we're wanting. But basically you can just kind of move this around while it dries, and it'll take a little while to dry naturally. But if you've got something where where you're ready for it to be, you know, that's kind of where I want those pools to end up, you can just hit it quickly with a bit of a heat tool around the outside. Essentially the airflow will catch up to your paper, so you don't have to be hitting directly into the centre of the bit that you've done. If you kind of edge around the outside of it, it will dry it out and move inwards from there. So once we've done that part, we can just keep moving and pop some more isopropyl on. You can use as much or as little as you like. You'll play with it. The more you dilute it, the more colours are going to come out. And you'll see this green in particular, because it's a light green, it will start to go a bit yellow. But what we can do, the best thing about alcohol inks is that you can just keep layering them up. So once we've got this kind of covered and we see where there's any patches where we're kind of like, oh, I'm not really happy with the colour there, we can go back in with our green marker again and just do the process all over again. So if you are ever like, oh my God, I really hate this part that I've done, it's too dark, just add some more isopropyl, and you can almost wipe the slate clean by flooding it with isopropyl. Same goes for using it on the acetate. You might also use the traditional UPO paper, which is almost like a photographic paper. You can use photographic printer paper, which has got that nice smooth surface. What else can we use? Metallic cardstock we can use. We might have a play with that actually, with some metallic. I might use the silver because it'll pick up the colours a bit better. But if I'm good with that little bit there, I'll just set this. Of course, you'll get those little streaky sections if you kind of blow too ferociously or too hard. It'll splash across. Let's have a look. I'm going to go back in. Oops, and I'll show you how. See how in this section in through here, you can see how it's separated into kind of a yellow. We'll just put some more marker back in here. Nothing too pretty. I mean, you can see it moves anyway, so it doesn't matter. You could draw the sign of the devil in there and, you'd be able to get rid of it by adding some isopropyl to it and wiggling it around. The less isopropyl you put on, the better. You can, move it around any which way you like. And you'll find little techniques and just play with stuff is the main thing with this technique. I have gone a bit crazy with the isopropyl on this one, so it's going to come a little bit, it's going to get a bit loose and yellow again. Never mind, that's light. Give a bit of a swish around. Keep a bit more of that green in the middle this time. Is blending solution the same as isopropyl? Blending solution is similar. It's predominantly isopropyl, but it does have some other ingredients in it there, Dee. So you can buy specific blending solution. Tim Holtz does a really good one. And it kind of works the same way. There are some other ingredients in it that they use that is mainly meant to, particularly for Tim's one, it is meant for his particular brand of alcohol inks so that they will move better. And he has a lot of great metallic and pearl solutions that you can use. So this is the alcohol blending solution, Dee, that you're probably talking about. So you can get it in a smaller or a much larger bottle. Does it? I don't think it says. It just says it's a solvent-based solution, so it's got other ingredients in it as well as the alcohol. But we've all realised that the alcohol does actually give you very, very similar kind of effect. Yeah, the blending solution blends it more. You're right. Whereas this one just kind of takes the ink as it is and just disperses it. So let's keep colouring. Good question though, Dee. Thank you. I want to get some out to the outside areas of this page. I'm just going to do a couple of little drops along here. I just want to show you less can sometimes be more. And you can start getting these little cute blobs. And that's how, the smaller you go, the more controlled it is, and you can start doing things like painting a Christmas tree, or you can use a brush to disperse. This one's a bit gross. I didn't realise that it hasn't. I think it got used for some glue, but you can actually paint with it. So this is a fairly stiff bristle brush at the moment, but you could create little marks, a little bit scratchy, a little bit tree leaf based. So you can definitely do that, and that's just by using just a lot less of the isopropyl. So don't flood it, just use a little bit. But because I want this to move a fair way around my paper and get the colour right out into the corners, I'm just going to give it a little bit more. Once you get to the corner, you will notice that it's going to run off onto your mat or your work surface underneath. You need to play around a little bit to get it to dribble back on. But this is where you kind of start to get that nice fade towards the edge. And then, you know, the extra lines where the outside of the ink has dried. If you grab while you've got just those slightly damp edge lines, if you've got some foil, you can actually tap the foil down onto those slightly damp bits, whip it off, and you'll end up with those nice little lines in the ink work itself, and that's a really cool effect. I'm not going to do that today because we're trying to keep it quite simple. I know for some of you this is the first time that you've played with alcohol inks, so we'll just keep it simple, not go too crazy. What's Jenny said? Got isopropyl at Officeworks, cost a little bit more, but Bunnings was sold out. Oh, well, I mean, that did happen earlier in the pandemic, definitely. I know we went in to get isopropyl to clean the theatres that my partner works at. And yeah, they were sold out. You could not get it anywhere. I think it came back into stock fairly quickly though. But great tip that you can get it from Officeworks as well. I'm so thirsty today, guys. I don't know what's going on. All right, a little bit more up here. And I might smooth out these bits over here that I've done. And then I think we'll call it a day on this one. Swish, swish, swish. I love isopropyl. It's like that, you know, when you used to have permanent black markers or whiteboard markers at school, and you know, just get that alcohol ink smell. Gets you a little bit high and crazy. I mean, we deserve to have a bit of fun while we're crafting, don't we? Okay, here we go. All right, got most of that covered now, so I am just going to dry this one off and put it aside. So you can keep working this and working it and working it as long as you like, just to be able to, you know, to get the colours and the colour depth. And for this green particularly, because it does leach out so much yellow, if you want a deeper green than that, you can just keep layering and layering and layering, and eventually you'll end up with a lot more lines, unless you totally flood your page with isopropyl. But it will come good. It'll be really lovely. So there is that one. That's that done. I'm just going to clean this little bits of green off my mat, just so that it doesn't end up on my acetate sheet that we're going to work on. And this is going to attract every little piece of dust and fibre that you have floating around your craft room. So I do like to just put glue on the back of that one. I don't know where that's come from. Just give it a quick wipe before you start working with it. Otherwise, you're going to get all of those little fibres in your work. Chances are you're probably going to get a few anyway, but we can minimise that a little. Now we're going to do exactly the same process on the acetate sheet. Now you can go in and just make some scribbles. I want to try and keep this a little bit closer to not going all the way to the edge on this one. This red does come out like, it looks a little bit like a murder scene, so just be careful with what you make out of it and how you present it. But also, I mean, Halloween's just been, so if anyone needed to make something for Halloween, this would have been a really good technique to go with. So again, just pulling the alcohol on top of my little scribbles that I did. I can get them to join up a little bit. Excuse me. Okay, now this one I am just going to blow dry with the air. Because it's acetate, it does have a tendency to want to shrivel up with heat like a shrinky dink. If anyone remembers those little things, we used to shrink the, can we get the turkey baster from your shop? It's kind of like a turkey baster, Cindy. No, I don't have these in stock at the moment. but you can jump online. Craft Online will have a bunch of them. Any of your good online craft stores should have them. I just haven't gotten those in. Turkey baster. I love it. I've never basted a turkey, but yeah, I don't know if I want to use my craft tools for it, but I guess it's the same thing. All right, so just get that dry and you'll start to see, I put a piece of white cardstock underneath because on the brown it doesn't look like much. If you put it against a white backdrop, it really starts to pop, and now you can tell it really starts to look like blood splatters. So it's not the best look, not necessarily what we're after, but I'm just going to colour in. Oops. See, I've done it already. Gotten the bullet end. Great if you wanted to do some smaller sections. All right, I'm going to get that across to the side, but I want to leave some bits, oops, top and bottom, that aren't coloured. I'll let the white background kind of show through off my card on those. Cindy, you've just given me the greatest laugh for the day. The turkey baster. Oh gosh. Getting ready for Christmas. I've got a lot of, we're getting Christmas cards ready now, which is a good start. But we're hosting Christmas in our new house this year. So we've started planning, like right down to how do we get 15 people set up at tables, and how do we keep all the drinks cold in one fridge. So we're already looking at okay, here's a timeline for we've got to go and get ice to fill the esky up on Christmas morning, and where are we going to be able to do that in this new area that we live in, because we know where we would have got it at our old house, but I'm not sure if they do it here. I'm sure the service stations will have ice on Christmas morning, but all that planning, how are we going to fit everybody at tables? We don't have enough chairs. Who's bringing salad? There's a lot to think about. But we'll get there. We've got some family coming to stay with us, so they can help too. Mum, you're it. Mum's going to be on potato salad duty, I think. Let's see how we go. What's the highlight of Christmas meals for you guys? Is it a turkey? Is it a Christmas pudding? Is it seafood? I don't know. Who's got it like a traditional thing that they do? Ours is just food in general. We're not really fussy. We just want food. All right, she's nearly dry. I do want to make sure that this is completely dry though before I start to put it on my white cardstock, because we are actually going to flip this over in order to adhere it to our card, and doing that means that the front, like your alcohol ink surface, is protected, so it's inside the acetate, and so you can't get little scratches on it, which often just detracts a little bit from your finished work. Lots of air on there. I think that's pretty good. Now, I just want to go in. I have gotten a little bit on the other side, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of isopropyl on there and just give this side a little wipe down, just to make sure I haven't got any smudges on the outside. There you go. Just wipe all the red gunk off here. We don't want red on our nice white and cream card bases. Just defeat the purpose. Have to cover it up with something else. Traditional roast beef on the Weber and a roast pork with a Viennetta ice cream dessert. Jenny, we had Viennetta ice cream the other night. It was so good. But they've gotten so small. So small. Tony's got her mum's trifle and a Christmas cocktail. Cindy, go all out. You'll have to share the recipe. Yeah, I'd love a good Christmas cocktail. Okay, let's work on getting these together. So, where did I put them? Now, I told you guys to remind me that I'd put the cards on the right-hand side. Now, this one's got a bit of a kink in it, which is why I'm using it and not giving it to you guys. So, I'll put a piece of something inside there to make that a little bit nicer, actually. I reckon I could probably disguise it with my alcohol ink. How's that? Not just a pretty face. Not going to see much of that, are we? Oh my gosh, it's just gotten really windy outside. There we go. That's going to be a good look. Okay. So what we're going to do to put this one together, let's go with this. We'll do this one first. I'm going to cut down some of my red. I'm going to make this a fully red themed card. I'm going to get my trimmer and I'm going to cut down a frame for my alcohol ink. So we're going to go all the way to the edge of the card. I'm going to go 135 mil. Make that a square. Another 135. Put these guys aside. I want to do a red card and a green card, so we'll get there. Now, this is where the magic comes in. Not only are you going to get something that you can use to adhere your alcohol ink panel to your card and hide all the magic that goes on, but I'm also going to cut out the window in here, and we're going to save on a whole lot of cardstock that we can use for something else. So I'm going to adhere all of my bits with this double-sided tape, and it is about 6 millimeters wide. So I'm going to make a border all the way around that is 7 mil wide. And because I'm losing light, I'm just going to turn the overhead light in the room on. It has just gone from sunny to windy and rainy in the space of 60 seconds here. This is the crazy weather we've had the last few weeks. Have you guys all had that where you are? It's yeah, bananas. So if I've got 6 mil tape, I'm going to do a 7 mil border just to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. But I really want the border to completely be glued in order to hold it all together. Hi Marie, Marie's here. Marie, I did get your message. I don't have any November kits left, but I do have some bits and pieces. So if there are specific things like the alcohol markers, I've got a few of those. I've got a few of the Merry Christmas stamps left. So drop me an email and let me know what you're after, and I'll see if I can put a little package together for you. I can't believe this weather. I think that's either really big rain or hail. It's just come out of nowhere. Beautiful and sunny on the Gold Coast, Dee. Well, there you go. No, this is typical Melbourne weather. All of the seasons in one day. Yesterday, Ben and I put in the first of our posts for, we've got a little separator fence that we need to build in the backyard between our section and his mum's section. And inside that fence, there's going to be our rubbish bins. So they're kind of screened off, but we both households can actually get to the bin, if that makes sense. It's called our bin. Oh no, that slipped. This is not going to be good. I might have to do this again. So anyway, we've, yeah, no, I might be able to save it. Let's see. I don't like my chances. So yeah, so we dug a hole, did a post hole yesterday, and we put a post in and we got it cemented in. That was an achievement of its own. I don't know if there's any saving that. We'll see. But yeah, we need to do 3 of them. And there's so much clay soil in our backyard that it was just such a nightmare to dig that we think we're going to hire a tool from Bunnings to do it. It was just too much work. Too much work. Oh yeah, South Australia wants you nice weather, Dee. Hi Dorothy, thank you for joining us. Welcome to our little Sunday afternoon. It feels like we have a lot more people here today. Is that because Sunday's a better day for everybody to do craft than Saturday, which is when we previously had been doing sessions? Let me know. What works better for you, Saturday or Sunday? Everybody. All right. I'm going to salvage this somehow. But this section that we've cut out of the middle, obviously you can use to put on other cards and do backgrounds for sentiments and things. Oh, goodness me, this is going to be a warped piece of craft. Not my finest hour of... Tony, you normally, you know, say I'm really great at cutting this sort of stuff, but I've made a really botched job of it. Look, hopefully we can hide it in a spot where it's not really a problem. All right, so now that we've finished that, I'll get that little cutting mat out of the way. You can go over there. And I'll just get some double-sided tape. Do you know, I put this down earlier today and I could not find it again for the life of me. It was right in front of my eyeballs. I just wasn't looking hard enough. All right. So just double-sided tape all the way around. So much for natural light today, Tangi, on the stream. I've got natural light now. It's just grey and overcast. Tiniest little patch of blue sky over yonder. And that's about it. Okay. So just like that. So I've got double-sided tape pretty much everywhere. We're covering all of the corners and all the long edges. So what I want to do now, make sure I know which side is my good side. So this is my good side here. And have my card ready. I'm going to bring in my stamp platform, but before I do that, I'm going to flip this over to the back side and I'm going to put this tape right up against all of those edges as well, as close as we can get. On the back side, you definitely want this to be on the back side. Away we go. Still looks good, says Tony. My bad craft cutting today. It just slipped. It happens. It happens. But rather than cut out another whole one, I just thought, oh, I'll just keep going with this one. This will be fine. I'll cover it up. I'll put some sequins or something on it. No one will ever look there. All right. Interesting buzzing sound in my room at the moment. I'm hoping that it's not my overhead light where my camera is, but we'll see. If anything goes bang and I disappear, like just send someone to check on me. All right, so I'm going to use my stamp platform. And the reason I'm going to use this is so that I can line up my acetate to sit that on, and then to line up my border to sit that on the top. Now again, I've got to make sure everything's up the right way. But for me, it's mainly about being able to push into this side. My platform doesn't have the top side where you can push into both corners, but it does the job just the same. Just need to burnish this card a little bit harder because it's not sitting right down in the, yeah, that's better, in that slot. Oops. Take all my little bits of paper off here. Backing paper, and I mean, you can see it is, the tape is fairly transparent, but it's not perfect. Like, you will still see that tape if you were to just stick this down onto, you know, a regular project. I'm just going to tuck all these little daggy edges of tape just back under, because I have hung off the side just a little bit. We don't want those little sticky bits sticking to other things other than our card. Okay, so then I'm just going to line this up, pushing it into the corner of this little guide here, and just line up the bottom edge and the top edge with the card, and then everything else should be square. So I can just push that down, and that's that part there. Now, as you can see, there's still, if I was to just leave that card like that, you know, you can see all of these tape edges. We want to hide that. So just pop this back into that side again. And I've got my red border, my glitter border. Where's the worst part that I cut? That corner there. Okay, we're going to make that the bottom left-hand corner. So just take all these backing papers off, and we're going to do exactly that same process of pushing it into the edge of that guide. And that just helps. It means that you've only got two things that you need to line up, the top and the bottom, and you know that the card itself is against the edge. If I wanted to, I can Use my little magnets in here. I couldn't do it on the previous one because obviously I was going to put things down on top of where that is. But because this is a cutout, I can definitely put those magnets on the inside. Just folding down that little bit of extra tape from the uneven border that I cut. All right, and again, so we're just going to try and line this up against that edge, top and bottom, and we should be right. So just gently push that down, and then you'll see you get a nice even edge. And I have ended up doing that upside down, so now my bad border edge is up in the top hand side, so I'd stuff that up, that's okay. So that is the start of the card, and then we just need to decorate that one for me. Oh, Margaret's here. Have you had your surgery yet, Margaret? I hope everything's going well if you have. Thanks for joining me. But it's your Saturday on our Sunday. Margaret's from Canada, for those of you who've never met Margaret before. Alrighty, so then I would like to put this little bit on the front of here, and it just makes a really cute, just a cute little card. Just, you know, just a little bit of graphic background. Of course, we could have filled up more of the background if we wanted to. But now I'm not sure whether I want to leave this white and just make it a bit glittery, or whether I want to colour it red. Let me know in the comments, should I do the writing red, or should I keep the writing right and do white and just make it glittery? Let me know. I kind of like it white. What do I do? I'm going to put that there because we'll finish that one off, but let me know if we're keeping red or white. Red or white. It's almost like the red light, green light of Squid Games. Not that I've watched it, but I've just gotten the what do you call it? Surgery on Wednesday. Oh, you're still in hospital. You're watching us in hospital. Jeez, Margaret, I guess you've got all the time in the world to watch craft tutorials. I guess that's one way of recovering. Oh, good. No answers. Red or white? Red or white? All right, I'll move on to the vellum card just so that we can keep things moving. I know this is probably going to be a little bit of a long one. Thanks, Dee. You can come back and watch more this afternoon or tonight. The replays will be on Facebook and YouTube for you, so you can always catch up on the rest of what we do. Just fast forward to this part. Okay, so green. I'm going to cut a piece of white cardstock, and I know you guys have all got plenty of this floating around in your craft rooms. But I am going to take, what am I going to take? Let's say, I'm going to bring my calculator. So we've got 135 wide, and let's say we want to take, let's say 8 mil off either side, so we'll minus 16. So we're going to cut 119 by 119 millimeters square. You know how bad my maths can be sometimes. When I'm not pressured, I can do it, but when it really matters, and if I give you the wrong dimensions, you're all going to be making cards and screaming at me because you've chopped up your supplies and it's not gone well. That would not be good. So what we will do with this is we're going to tuck this in on. Now you can use either side of this vellum, it's totally up to you. The back side is quite flat and matte, whereas the side that has the alcohol ink on it is quite a bit more vibrant, but you might like the muted side, and that's totally fine. I want to tell you why I've just done single colours today, and that's because I did play with a little bit of all of the colours, so red, green and yellow, and it kind of started to look a bit Bob Marley Rastafarian. And I was like, that doesn't really look particularly Christmassy anymore. So I stepped away from that, but I did do some other little bits with I cut out of those some little bauble circles. So I did some that were just single colours and some that were multicolours, and I actually think they look much nicer and much more appropriate. So if you're looking to cut out an element from your backgrounds, then yeah, go for it. I'm going to make those into some little baubles and hang some strings on in a different project, but it was just because I did this last night and I thought, oh, I can't use that. It's very reggae. Never mind. Cool, everybody. Excellent. All right, so getting on with this. How do we hide this? So it's kind of a bit like contacting a book. So, you know, we're just going to cut off the corners at a certain point, and then we're just going to score. And I'm not even going to score with a scoreboard. I'm going to get my cutting mat just because it is a little bit soft. So I'm going to put this down. I'm going to put it roughly equal. And it doesn't really matter, but you want it fairly close. And get my little score tool. And you can just run this along the edge of that paper or cardstock. And just do all four. Give it a good going over, at least as if it gives you a line to follow, to fold. That's going to be the main thing, and it's going to show you where those corner points are. Got my muscles today. Used them all digging a hole yesterday. I think I was, 80 instead of 40. All right. So now you should be able to see very faintly. You can see where those little fold scores are. Take that out of the way. Now, I'm just going to get my little scissors. I'm just going to cut across where those corner points are. If anyone didn't like contacting their books at school with book cover contact, you're not going to like this. It's not that hard though. It's, you don't have to fight with it too much. Okay, and then we should be able to find those little score lines. They're a little bit tricky. And just fold those back and give them a burnish. You find that the vellum is quite stiff, so it will fold and it will make a very sharp crease. I don't know if anyone's seen the vellum shaker cards that people have been making of late, but this is pretty much the go. Right, I'm just going to tuck this piece of card in now that I've got two of those corners together, just to make sure that as I'm cutting or folding the others, that they are actually going to fit snugly and not be too short and shrunk down. So just fold that over and give it a burnish. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect, like this one's snuck out a little millimetre out here. It shouldn't have too much of an impact on the front of your card. I don't know what characters Ben's doing today, but there are some crazy characters going on D&D on his stream in the other room that I can hear through my wall. Oh dear. Okay, so we then go in and just open up these little pieces. Grab my, here it is, double-sided tape again. Okay. And we're just going to pop that just along the very, very edges of the white cardstock. This will hold those little pieces of vellum down, and then you're not going to see any adhesive whatsoever under the front. And of course, white cardstock is the best to use, but you could play with anything you like under it. Glitter cardstock might work. A bit of metallic in the background might work. Well, that reminds me, I haven't done our alcohol ink on the metallic background. Maybe I'll leave that for you guys to learn about by just doing it at home. So just lift up your paper off the back, just the protective paper off the back of the tape, just bit by bit, one at a time, and then just seal down your vellum just like that. And now it's nice and flat, it's nice and clear on here, and you can't see any of the adhesive because it's all on the back. So there's that. So that's the start of that one. I'm going to do that on, I told you guys my cards are on the right hand side today. All right. So I've got this guy. Kind of covers a lot of it. And I want to do a green sparkle background for that one. So I'm going to get my green and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut it the full size of the card, 135 square. But I'm going to take a huge section out of the inside middle of it because we're not going to see any of it. Especially when you're using like your good papers or your glitter papers, you know, we're only going to see that much of it. So why are we wasting all of this good usable space underneath? So we'll just cut a hole inside that bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this up on a little bit of foam. So I do want to see a little bit inside. Pencil, there we go. So what I might do is go 1.5 centimetres, so 15 mil as a border. I'll try and cut straight this time, although it won't matter as much because it'll be underneath my alcohol ink panel, so that will be good. One and a half all the way around, centimetres that is, 15 millimetres. Who's having a play today, or are you watching and then figuring it out later? Playing afterwards. I like to watch a tutorial first and then have a go afterwards. There's only a few that I can do on the fly. But it'd be really great to see all of your takes and interpretations and the patterns that you get out of your backgrounds with, you know, your alcohol ink, and depending on which way you're drying it and moving it around, whether you're using a hairdryer or a straw or a heat tool or a turkey baster. Thanks, Cindy. That one still makes me laugh. Yeah, let's see what kind of patterns people get. I know a lot of you already own alcohol inks, so there's nothing at all stopping you from doing a blue or a purple Christmas card. A pink one. It's totally great that we don't have to restrict ourselves to Christmas being just these colours, but they are the most common. So there's a piece that we can keep and use for later. That's not going to waste. Finished with that. Swap that out for this little one. All these bits all over the place. Just give this a bit of a burnish and make that a little bit of a tighter fold, just so it'll sit in here and it'll work nicely. Now I can use my magnets on this one because this is it's a frame, so when I put this in and lay it down, it's not going to get in the way. But, oh, I've left my lid off my isopropyl. Naughty. All right, have I got, I don't think I've got any of my thicker tape in my drawer. That's okay, we'll do the thin stuff. It'll work the same. Do it in the middle. Just double side tape the back of this. Hi Jackie, thank you for popping in on Facebook to see what we're up to. We're making some Christmas cards with some alcohol ink backgrounds. Given you've missed a lot of it, you can actually go back and watch this later on Facebook and our YouTube feed. So all of our past tutorials are there. So if you've ever missed any, pop back in, have a look. There should be, what have we done? There should be 40 tutorials for this month, or for this year. Marie, this is a Couture Creations stamp press. So we did have those in the store. I haven't got any in stock at the moment, but again, if you want one, let me know. we can order one in. I'm just about to do a Couture Creations order actually, so just to get the last kit out for the year. The December kit will be coming out soon. All right, so there's that. I'm not going to need the stamp press for both stuck together. That's helpful to put the panel on because that will be nice and easy. Alrighty. So this one, I'm just going to double-sided tape inside, but then I'm going to run a little bit of liquid glue around the outside just because this glitter paper really does not like the, it doesn't like the double-sided tape too much. So just so that we've got a good amount of adhesion all over the place. Still don't think we've decided red or white for that, for this other card yet, guys. Chop, chop. I'm going to be up to doing it in a sec. Let us know in the comments, just red or white, red or white. Otherwise I might have to candy stripe it and that could be a problem. Okay, liquid glue around the edge. We don't want to go too close to the edge because we also don't want to kind of start reacting with the alcohol ink. So I'll just put a pretty good amount on that vellum all the way around, not too close. Should have taken these off first, but that's okay. Get that on the big jobs. So you could have a whole lot of fun just making a ton of backgrounds and then using them for whatever kind of cards. You don't have to make Christmas cards. That's just what we're kind of focusing on at the moment because it's Christmas and everybody wants Christmas cards. Alrighty, try and get that as centered as we can. Keep that there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my stamp platform on top of that just while that glue sets. It won't take long. But it's just a little bit of flat weight just to keep that down. Try and tidy up all these little bits I've got going on. All right, did we decide? White. Oh, white. Oh, and the stamp platform's on top of your list for Santa, Marie. Well, I hope Santa brings you all the things you wanted. I hope you've been a good girl. You've been good enough to get a visit from Santa this year. Right. I'm going to start by gluing this down. So we're going to keep it white, but I'm going to go over it with a glaze pen and just give it a little bit of shine. I have to move really quick with this because there's so many little bits to cover. I don't know why I did such an intricate cutout for you guys this month, but I thought it looked really cute, so I wanted to do it. I have this problem a lot where I see stuff and I go, oh, that'd be really great to do, and not realise that it's actually really intricate. And you know, I don't consider you guys to be at beginner level by any stretch of the imagination, but I know for some people who join us, it might be their first time that they've done crafts like this, and you know, throwing them in the deep end with something like this where you have to move relatively quickly could be a bit daunting. I don't want you to give up and just throw it away and not come back. I want you to be successful and make lovely cards that you're proud of and that you can share with your family. We've got a few more cards coming up this month, quite a few actually. So what are we making next week? What's my little thing say? The lace fold Christmas tree card. So we're going to be using patterned paper next week. So out of the Christmas Gala patterned paper that you got in your kits. So that's our exclusive paper that I designed and we got printed. It's our first 12 by 12 inch collection, but you guys have got a little sample, a 6 by 6 inch sample for this month, and then next month in your December kits you'll get the full size. Just got to make sure of which way my card opens up there. Lift this up. Now, do we think on a bit of an angle? I thought it looked pretty cute. Just on a slight angle there. Just going to gently press it down. I don't want glue to go out the side all over my acetate. But I'm going to pop that one back up there and I'll swap and pop that stamp platform there. So yeah, so we're going to be using the pattern paper to make a thing. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of my first pattern paper in the Christmas, in the 12-inch papers. I think it's quite good. All right, I thought I had a gold pen somewhere. Do you think I can find it right now when I need it? I think what this really needs is it needs a little gold something just around the outside of this alcohol ink panel, just to tie it in. And then I think I'd be kind of happy with that as a little bit of a graphic kind of type of Christmas card. Of course, you could leave it more blank and put just a simple sentiment across the middle and a bow or whatever you might be. But it just depends how much of your background you want to see. I feel like if I'd cut this out of a couple of extra, and I know it's a pain in the butt because you'd have to hand cut them all. If I cut it out of, if I glued a few pieces of cardstock together and then cut it out together and it was a little bit stronger, I would pop that up on some foam tape. It's not particularly strong, so I don't really want to do that. I'll just use some double-sided tape in some strategic sections just to hold that in place. And that should be fine. And then if I can find my gold pen later, I'll run a little edge around, and I think that would finish that one off kind of nicely. A couple of green sequins wouldn't go astray either. Got some of those. They're coming in your December kits, guys, to go with all your Christmas cracker bonbon making fun. It should be good. I'm really looking forward to that one. So much so that I wanted to just not do Christmas cards this year. I want to move straight on to the next one, but we can't. We'll get there. Quite a bit of double-sided tape in the end, just because we want it all to make sure it's going to stay there. It's not going to flap around your card. Okay. Okay. A little bit more. Oh, Cindy, you've got your pattern paper and you're really happy with it. I'm so glad to hear that. We really did want to try getting a product that A, is made in Australia, and B, is a bit environmentally friendly. So the pattern papers, they're all made on recycled paper, but when you know how recycled paper can really feel what? I really didn't want that. So I went through so many different companies and suppliers looking for and getting sample prints done of those papers before I stumbled across a company called Print Together, who are in Bendigo, or near Bendigo, Castlemaine, I think, and they print those papers for us. So they're so nice, and it's nice and thick, and I just love it. The quality, I'm super happy with. Oh, and I've forgotten to put my lid on my glue, so I've ended up with glue on my arm. Mum always told me to clean as you go, and you know, sometimes I do, and sometimes I get glue on my arm. So there we go. So I've got a little bit more finishing off to do on both of these, but just as a nice sort of, you know, wordy kind of Christmas card with a, you know, a graphic type of background. Just showed a couple of ways to kind of hide the vellum. Now this wouldn't have mattered if you'd put this panel underneath the border and the border on top. You could do that as well. And this one obviously with the border on top, you know, being able to hide that adhesive underneath. So both really, really good ways to be able to use transparent mediums for your card making and not have to worry about, you know, seeing those ugly bits of adhesive that you've put in. So I'll finish these off camera. I'm going to do a whole lot of work with a glaze pen to kind of colour in and keep this white wording white, but also give it a bit of shine. And I'll find my gold pen wherever that happens to be, and pop that, excuse me, little edging in, and then we should be finished. But I'd love to see how you go with making your own patterns with the alcohol inks and the markers. So feel free to use them as regular coloured markers to be able to draw or colour in any stamps that you've got and any patterns that you might have, you know, that you want to do backgrounds for. But use the isopropyl alcohol or the blending solution. Play around with the different kinds of backgrounds and things that you can make. You know, the more you play with it, clean it off, go again, the more you'll learn how that medium works and how far you can spread it and how you can load it up to make stronger colours. You know, so less is more with the isopropyl if you're trying to get a stronger colour out of it, but you'll just need to work it a lot more. It's just a lot more little, you know, put down some more colour, a little bit of alcohol, dry it out, another bit of colour, a little bit more alcohol, dry it out. And you'll be able to layer up those colours really, really well. So I look forward to seeing all of your creations. Post them on our Facebook page. We love seeing all of the work that you guys do. And of course, we're going to love seeing everybody get these cards that you've made for Christmas. And I think, you know, the looks on some of their faces when they go, did you make this? Like, this isn't a board card. You made this. People really appreciate being able to get something that you've spent some time and effort making instead of just, I bought a 6-pack for $5 at Coles. So let me know how you go. I'd love to see your end results. We'll be back again 2 o'clock next Sunday, daylight saving time, so Melbourne time in Victoria, for our next one, which is the lace fold Christmas card using our pattern papers. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great week. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye-bye.